Whether you love it, hate it, or are completely indifferent to it, I think we all can recognize the significance of the very first Sonic title from Sega. It launched in the summer of 1991, giving the Genesis platform both a new mascot as well as a killer app pack-in, the likes of which the industry hadn't seen since the original Super Mario Bros. It released to an incredible amount of hype, and the game magazines loved it. Everything fell into place perfectly for Sega at that point. The commercials, the fan response, hell, they even had the price advantage. Needless to say, building its market for 2 years in the US had finally paid off, and Sega was ready to take its place as the leader of the 16-bit revolution. With Sonic finished, Sonic Team split into two groups. Some went on to the US to begin work on Sonic 2, while some stayed behind in Japan to bring Sonic to Sega's brand new platform, the Sega CD. In this episode, I'm going to take a look at Sonic CD, the weird and wonderful semi-sequel that turned the franchise upside down. It was released in late 1993 and was the Sega CD's best-selling game by a mile. But was it the game it needed to be to sell an add-on that cost $300? Let's take a look and find out. There are a lot of things about Sonic CD that were different, but none more so than the gameplay. First, the spin dash is here, but it doesn't work the same. Pressing down and jump still rolls you into a ball, but you need to charge it before it engages. Let go too soon and you'll just be standing there. There is a second version of it too. If you press up and jump, you'll start a dash that launches you quickly but doesn't have the attack properties of the other spin dash. Meaning that if you run into an enemy like that, you'll take damage. The longer you hold the charge for this version, the faster you peel out. Most of the power-ups are the same as what you saw in the first Sonic for the Sega Genesis. You can get a shield that protects you from a single hit, and super shoes that give you a big boost of speed. You also have a few areas that allow Sonic to be shrunk down to get through smaller passages. The next thing you're gonna notice are the massive levels. They're absolutely huge and loaded with hidden items. As you explore, you'll happen across some signs that are labeled past and future. These signs allude to the next big difference in gameplay, the time travel mechanic. Each level gives you the ability to move forward and backwards in time. To achieve this, you need to hit the sign of the direction and time you wish to travel, and then maintain speed long enough for the transfer to take place, kinda Back to the Future style. The goal from there is simple. Basically, Dr. Robotnik has hidden an enemy generator in the past of every level. If you find and destroy that generator, you restore the good future for that zone. Do this and it changes the outcome of the future, most noticeably to you as a bright and cheery stage for the boss fight. But keep it up and you'll also get the best of two endings. But the doc isn't going to make things easy on you. In order to keep things interesting, each enemy generator is typically hidden quite well, and many of the stages are so big, finding them all can be quite daunting. If you find yourself at the end of a level without finding the enemy generator, simply hit A, B, C and start together to restart the stage at a cost of a life. Of course, you can choose not to mess with the time travel mechanics at all, but that means a dreary future for every boss fight in the worst of the two endings. There is a second way to deal with the endings, however. If Sonic collects 50 rings and finishes a stage, he'll get a chance at a bonus level. There you can collect a time stone if you destroy all the UFO-style enemies. Collect 7 time stones and you automatically get the best ending. From there, it's similar to the Sonic you know and love. You can mess around and explore if you want, but you can also speed right through it without a worry in the world. It's all up to you. Graphically, Sonic CD was familiar yet alien. The little blue blur is quite recognizable, but the art design from there took a number of different turns than what we had seen previously. Everything is a bit more mechanical, a bit more abstract, and a bit more cluttered. There are rings located all over the stage you can't pick up, and there's all sorts of machines that bounce you all over the place. Luckily, it does retain much of the great color use from the cartridge series, as well as the great multi-layered backgrounds. Sonic CD easily has some of the most impressive scrolling in any of the original 2D Sonic titles. Aside from the tweaking of the art style, it's still a great looking game and easily rivals the first two in the series. The real advantage here is you get more variety in everything. Because every stage has a past, present, and future, you get variations other Sonic titles never touched upon. Past versions of each area appear more primitive and wild, and future areas are typically darker and more desolate, a side effect of Dr. Robotnik's evil plans. Most boss encounters are rather tame but usually look cool. Bonus stages use the Sega CD scaling abilities to some rather disappointing results. I mean, it's cool Sonic gets to run around in a pseudo 3D world, but it's not particularly smooth, and gauging your proximity to enemies is really tough. You'll be missing some of those guys often, in other words. On the plus side, the full motion video opening and ending are very nice and worth repeated viewings. They add a cinematic quality that none of the cartridge games ever had. Usually, the sound portions of my reviews are a few simple words and then I let you make up your own minds. We are gonna need to do a bit more than that with Sonic CD because this is one of the most hotly contested soundtracks Sega ever produced. When this game originally launched in Japan for the Mega CD, it had a soundtrack composed by Naofumi Hataya and Masafumi Ogata, two Sega vets that had experience with the Sega Master System. Red Book Audio was used for all the music except for the past versions of the stages, which was produced by the hardware itself. The European release followed in its footsteps with the same music less than a month later. Sega of America hated the Japanese soundtrack, however. They thought the opening song was hokey and that the majority of the soundtrack just didn't fit the game. It was delayed while Spencer Nielsen and David Young redid the Red Book Audio completely, including a completely new theme song. The only music Sega of America used from the Japanese release was the past versions that were hardware generated, and only because it would have meant further delay and missing Christmas that year. Here are a few samples of the two versions so you can hear the differences.
If you're strong, you can fly, you can reach the other side of the rainbow. It's alright, take a chance, 'cause there is no circumstance that you can't handle. When you use your mind, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, keeps you running faster. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, save the planet from disaster.
There's a lot to like about Sonic CD. It introduced Amy Rose, Sonic's adoring fan, and it gave us our first real rivalry with Metal Sonic, complete with a foot race to the death. The stages are noticeably larger than what we saw in the first game, not just in sheer size, but also in how they're laid out. There's more verticality, more nooks and crannies, more ramps, more jumps, more things to play around with. This stage design is also much less claustrophobic than what was seen in some of the first game's areas. Rarely do you find yourself having to stop or wait for much of anything unless you are specifically hunting down rings or enemy generators for the time travel aspect. In fact, if you were playing just to rush through, you can burn through this one pretty damn fast. But don't let the time aspect throw you off. It's much less complicated than it sounds. Basically, just go to the past, bust up the enemy generator, and move on. It's that simple. You can even find the remnants of the enemy generator in the present, so look for it no matter which time you're in. What you are rewarded with in the time travel mechanic is exploration, and plenty of it. But even then, you can skip all that and there's still plenty to enjoy here, both in the fun of the basic gameplay and the sights and sounds of the presentation. But man, there are some glaring issues that hurt it some. First, the time travel mechanic could have been easier to actually use. Finding an area to keep your speed up isn't much trouble early on, but some later areas can be a real pain. And speaking of later areas, Wacky Workbench is point blank my most hated zone in any Sonic title. The floor of this stage sends you rocketing into the air constantly, and danger is around every corner. You can easily spit out a ton of lives here quickly, particularly if you were trying for the best ending. There's also a lot, and I mean a lot of cheap deaths in later stages. Bottomless pits, spikes, and crushing machines are often placed in blind spots to rob you of your life precious. I can't tell you how close I've come to beating this game with one man, only to have a surprise death spring out of the blue. As far as the soundtrack goes, I actually enjoy elements from them both. I feel the Japanese and US soundtracks both have songs that are really good and some not so much. Neither are perfect and neither are terrible. I think your preference will greatly depend on which one you heard first. Many newcomers likely won't care either way. Finally, Sonic CD does have some pretty intrusive slowdown at times. While you encounter most of it when you drop a pile of rings, there's also some during gameplay at various times. It's not frequent, but it's puzzling that it's there at all considering there are two 68,000 CPUs running this game. Sonic CD has multiple modern variations you can play. It was basically rebuilt by Christian Whitehead with numerous enhancements and released for the PC, Xbox 360, PS3, and mobile platforms. This version has improved performance on the bonus levels as well as cool additions like both soundtracks. It's also in high definition and presented in widescreen. If you don't have original hardware, this is a great way to play it. Heck, it's a great way to play it even if you do have the original hardware. Sonic CD is easily the most strongly debated among the 16-bit Sonic titles. Some love it, some hate it. Some found its focus on exploration a weakness, others found it gave Sonic new purpose. While I have quite a mixed view of the Sonic series overall, I actually found myself really enjoying this. I liked the big stages. I enjoyed the time travel. It gave me a secondary purpose beyond just trying to make it to the end of a stage. I also appreciated that even though Sonic CD shares a lot of similarities in stage design to the first, it never made me feel as slow or as bogged down. Even its water stages were much less confined, and you always had the ability to freely keep moving with little in the way of mandatory stops or constantly having to climb your way through narrow passages. If Sonic CD does have a weakness, it's that many people will grow weary of its time travel gameplay and quickly revert back to just racing through the level as quickly as possible. Playing it this way is okay to see a quick ending, but I think you'll sell the game short by doing this. If you really want to see what it has to offer, you need to explore it and earn that good ending on your own. I think with its strong audio and visual components, that's an easy thing to do as a Sonic fan. Of course, if you never cared for Sonic, little here is going to change your mind. Much of the core gameplay experience is similar enough to all the other 16-bit entries. Sonic 3 and Knuckles would come along and add a lot more gameplay variation to the formula soon after, so many cartridge vets playing this after the fact will likely look down on it. Still, I really enjoyed this one for what it was. It took a formula I was familiar with and gave me a freedom that fixed a lot of the problems I had with the original. It was definitely a high point of Sega CD ownership, and I fire it up every so often just to watch that great opening movie. Ultimately, Sega's biggest folly with Sonic CD wasn't in any of its design aspects, but rather its timing. The Sega CD had been on the North American market for over a year before Sonic CD finally got a release, an absolute eternity in the life of a mid-generation add-on. Sonic CD was a great game, but it was just too late to make any real difference. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.